at the moment in terms of the table. Gary Neville perhaps has rose-tinted glasses on, who knows, but he thinks they're finished third. What do you think of that?
I have to say, at the minute, I agree with him. I think Manchester United are the form team over Villa.
Yeah.
Aston Villa look a little bit nervous, and you know that they're starting to listen to the fans, and they're starting to look at Manchester United and worry about that instead of just doing what they need to do. So, you know, I'm happy for Manchester United. It's been such a difficult, however many years for the fan base. Now, you know, they're looking at a team that they enjoy watching. I enjoy watching. I'm not a Manchester United fan, but at the minute, this football, that their style of football that they're playing is really good. So you want, you know, if you're a fan of the Premier League, you want to see Manchester United doing well, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. You might disagree with that, with your Aston Villa hat on there, Dave. But it has been an amazing turnaround, hasn't it, since Carrick arrived?
Yeah, I mean, it has. I mean, they've played well. I don't think a lot of people will remember the game at Hill Dickinson last night in 10 years' time as a Premier League classic. But you can't argue with the results. Look at that, unbeaten, 5 wins out of 6, different kinds of opposition, different kinds of performances. And if you look at the form table as well, across the rest of the Premier League, they've been absolutely magnificent compared to the rest of the Premier League. There they are, top of the form table, 16 points from 6 games ahead of Chelsea, Manchester City, Bournemouth, Arsenal and West Ham as well. So the question is now, where might they finish? Well, I guess if you were thinking about where they started the season under Ruben Amorim and then where they might initially finish under Ruben Amorim. So we've got match weeks along the bottom here and the cumulative points along the vertical. And if you obviously starting bottom left, that is Ruben Amorim in charge. And then Amorim is obviously greyed out there around match week 21 when Darren Fletcher took charge. And then we can see Michael Carrick take over the team. There's 3 divergent lines going off the season there. So if Ruben Amorim was still in charge with his current points per game when he left the club, United are due to finish on 59 points, which, according to our friends at Opta, would be outside of what they expect to be the Champions League places, top 4, top 5 this season. You can see the Opta prediction there is that United will finish on 64, which is right on the cusp of what they believe Champions League football qualification will be. So 4th and 5th, we're expecting 5th to be Champions League. 4th and 5th is around 64, 65 points. So United are right on that line, according to what Opta are predicting. But if they continue on this points per game that Michael Carrick is on at the moment, the line goes up to 77 points, which would absolutely be a guarantee of Champions League football. So 3 different outcomes this season could have been. 1 under Ruben Amorim, 1 is the potential predicted, and 1 is under Michael Carrick. Where will they end up?
It's interesting, isn't it? What's he done with this amazing upturn? Because if we go back to that form table, it's remarkable that they are absolutely top of that table right this moment.
Well, you know, we need to give him as much praise as possible. But one of the things he did do was the obvious, the simple thing, which was change the formation, put players in positions that they've played most of their careers, give a little bit of freedom to the attacking players. And now I think once he's, you know, when he did that in the first 2 games that he took charge, I think it was Manchester City and Arsenal.
Yeah, quite tough
ones. 2 of the difficult ones. I think he literally put them back in the shape, the 4-2-3-1, and said, you know, go and play. And now he's adding layers to it every game. And okay, the last 2 games haven't performed as well, but you know that happens in the Premier League. You're still getting the points. You're not losing games. Clean sheet last night. So I think he's adding layers, and he'll continue to do that and what he wants from his team. But just as a start, you know, putting that back 4 back in place, letting the good players that they brought in the summer, the Cunha and Buemo, those type of players, a little bit of freedom. Ahmad, freedom, go and play. I don't think he's over-coaching the attacking play going forward. You see they get the ball fast and early, and they go and play with a little bit of freedom. So without taking anything away from me, I just think he's simplified the game from when Ruben Amorim was there.
But I think you're right to point out, actually, that, you know, not everything has been amazing for Manchester United during this run. And even last night, I think there were problems in the build-up last night. I think Everton had the most high turnovers of any Premier League game they've had this season. Couldn't convert any of them into a shot on goal. So United had problems building out from the back last night against a different opposition, maybe better opposition. That opposition would convert one of those high turnovers into at least an attempt on goal. So that there's still issues that Michael Carrick needs to get over. But then by the same token, it's hard to go to a David Moyes side away from home and be so fluent and win the game 3-4. It doesn't really happen. But also, the evidence suggests from this Manchester United side, can you rely on this group of players to string together win. The evidence doesn't suggest that they're going to reach 77 and keep going on that points per game. So it's a case of, particularly now, when a result does go against United, how do they react after that? And that is how I think United's season will be defined.
Yeah, do you agree with that? Because that's a lot of people are saying, the only way that he's going to actually be looked upon properly is when actually he loses 3 games in a row potentially, and what he does then. Do you agree with that kind of thinking?
Yeah, well, absolutely, because only time will tell. A little bit of adversity which he hasn't faced yet in this little short spell, and how does he react? Knowing him and just seeing how he goes about his demeanour, I think he'll be very calm and calculated, and I don't think he'll. I think for once at Manchester United we're going to see a little bit of calmness and good press conferences and saying the right thing, not something that we can all grasp onto straight away and make a big deal of it. So I do think that he will respond in the right way, and I think he'll control his players in the right way. But I agree, it's been very rosy for him at the minute, and as a manager I can only imagine that life's great when it's like that, but maybe no winning 3 games or something like you say, and then we'll see really what he's all about. But at the minute he can only do what he's doing. I don't think he can do any more.
And he's got the fans on side, which is quite remarkable, isn't it? Because I think there was that kind of, attitude against Ruben Amorim that really wasn't going very well in terms of his relationship with the fans. How important is that to get, Old Trafford singing again?
Massive, because they had all the ownership problems, and it's been, for as long as I can remember now, it's been, since Sir Alex Ferguson left, that place, I've been in that stadium many times just watching games as a fan of football, and it's it'd been toxic in there. So he's one of their own. They're playing football, as I said, which is interesting to watch. You're enjoying watching this team play. The fans are back. They're going to support him anyway because he's a legend of the club, as long as he gives them something to go with. And if you're involved in Manchester United, it's a happy place to be. And as I said, I'm not a Manchester United fan, but I'm happy for them because they've had such a hard time and they're such a massive club. So much scrutiny over them all the time, what the manager's saying and doing and this player. And at the minute, they've just had a nice little, few weeks where everything's going well. And just going back to what you said, I think that, the build-up play, Martinez has been a different type of player. Without him in the team, they can't build up as well. So that's something that he's going to have to manage. If he's not on the pitch, who does that for him?
Yeah, OK. Well, if Michael Carrick gets the Manchester United team into the Champions League, should he get the full-time job? Well, we've been asking this on a poll today, and look, 85% say yes. Would you agree with that, Ashley, that, because there's this, again, a big chat about it has to be a big name and that's what Manchester United need. But actually, this is a man that's doing a great job so far. And if he does get them into the Champions League, why not?
I absolutely agree with it. I cannot understand why he wouldn't get the job if he continues doing the job he's doing, because they've tried everything at and you've seen it with other clubs. You can go after the biggest name in the world. If it's not the right fit, it doesn't matter. And who's to say he's not going to be a big name in management in the next 5 years or 6 years? He might go on and win things. So why wouldn't he get? What more can he do? What's the point if he goes and gets that club into the Champions League from where they were? I know there wasn't when Ruben Amorim left, there wasn't in a bad where they were in the league, but they was playing dreadful football. So he's changed the whole thing around. He completely deserves to get that. I don't know. I have no idea why. Even if the most attractive manager pops up and is available, why you would overlook someone that's proven in this time. If he's had enough time, it's not like he's had 3 or 4 games. He'll have had enough games to show that he can get the job done. So, if they do finish, say, 3rd, for me, he's a shoo-in to get the job.
Yeah, it's interesting why there's such a clamour for a big name at Manchester United. Can you understand and sympathise with perhaps why a club of Man United's stature wants a big name at the helm?
Yes, but I think there has to be a bit of realism as to where Manchester United are right now. And we're talking about them fighting tooth and nail to get into the Champions League. We're not talking about them being a title contender. And I don't think they're going to be a title contender next season. It might only be the year after. Whoever comes in next, or if it's Michael Carrick, they're going to need 2-3 transfer windows again to continue with this team. It's more, I guess, what his remit was when he took over. If his remit was get us into the Champions League and you'll get an interview, perfect. I think what they need to show, what the Manchester United hierarchy will be thinking about is what's the long-term plan? What's the playing style? What kind of players would you like to sign or be involved in the conversation for signing? How are you going to cope with Bruno Fernandes ageing out? How do you see the evolution of this United squad? How do you see the future of football? Set pieces, long throws. Is this what Manchester United want to be? There's lots of questions that you would ask a manager in an interview and get their thoughts on and how they see United going forward. So, yeah, he might achieve the short-term targets, but I think for United it's more about long-term. Can he work under the structure? Can he deliver for United sustainably? They can win a trophy. Erik ten Hag's proved that. This is about sustainable success now for United.
Yeah, OK. So, Benjamin Sesko with the winner off the bench for the second successive game. So are we really beginning to see, actually, Ashley, why they paid £70 million for this man?
Well, it's a lot of money, but we are, he's coming up with some important goals, and I'm happy for him as well, because he really struggled at the start, like all the Manchester United players did, but he especially did, and now you're starting to see he's putting the finishing touch on moves like this, which is this really isn't about Sesko, this goal, for me personally. It's a great ball from Cunha, and Mbeumo does his thing, and it's the run that we'll see that makes the goal. But he's coming up, his movement, he's showing now that he is a good player. So I've got to admit, I didn't see much of him abroad. And when he first came, I was a little bit, weren't sure myself. I couldn't see it at all. Whereas now, I'm starting to see how clever he is in and around the box, movement from crosses, and he's starting to look like the real deal. They've got a conundrum on their hands. I know everyone's talking about it. Should he start? Should he not? That's the real conundrum. But realistically, if you've paid out all that money in the summer to go and get those players, and the players are now showing what they're all about, and they're getting you out of situations like last night where maybe you're not playing as good as you want to play, those three players link up and get you out of trouble, which is exactly what you brought them in for.
What we do see is speed. I mean, it's extraordinary, the pace, the movement he's got. We'll see that, I think, again, in terms of what he can cover, in terms of the there we are, you can see here the speed of him when he goes here. It's quite remarkable, really.
You know what, he's obviously very fast, but what I love about it is the desire. You can be as fast as you want, but if you don't have that desire to go and get your goal and go and win the game and get in the end, you can see by his celebration, he was so pumped up for that. So when that ball gets played forward and it's between you and the defender, he could have jogged. We see it every week where you just jog and you hope your mate Mbeumo goes and does a bit of magic and scores a goal, but he was like, no, I'm going in the hope that this falls to me exactly where it did. So I love that about him, that he wants to score goals. He's got the desire to do that, 85-yard sprint and the pace with it to get on the end of it. Fair play to him. To answer your original question, he looks like he's coming up good for the money at the minute, but I don't want to speak too soon. Yeah,
it was a great goal. I loved it, and absolutely agree with everything Ashley said about the desire to get up there. I think it was clocked at almost 22 miles an hour, one of the fastest sprints in the Premier League. But you talk about the pace, right? And what I loved about here we go. That's 21, 22 miles an hour there. This is the fastest forwards by Premier League strikers this season. Will Asula top, but Benjamin Sesko is obviously right up there. But what I also really liked about that, not only did he get up to the top speed, but he slowed down. And when he received the ball, when he struck the ball, he was travelling at almost 15 miles an hour. So he was able to slow himself down, composure, plant the foot, and still finish. I mean, I've done it in five-a-side when you run up to that. I mean, I know you've done that? No. I was going to say, I've done it where I've ballooned it over the cage, it's gone outside. But when you're running onto a ball like that, to slow yourself down, composure, and put it in the bottom corner, that's what I love, the deceleration, not only the top speed. But listen, I know not everyone's at home watching the Premier League show, but I bet you should be every day. But we did do a piece on the Premier League show January the 8th. I've actually reposted it on my X feed today if anyone wants to go back. But against Burnley, we did a piece on how quick he was. And he's rapid. He's absolutely rapid. And particularly, when he defends corners, right? So when he defends corners, one of his positions is basically right on top of the goal line. And United have launched a couple of quick breaks. And he has flown from one end of the pitch to the other to try and get on the end of things. And I think that's one of his most underrated characteristics, really. Everyone sees the frame, everyone sees the size, but actually his movement is absolutely fantastic. He's able to move that size of body so quick. His runs in behind, I think only Bryan Mbeumo has had more runs in behind than Sesko this season. So mobility-wise, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, rapid. He has been used as a bit of an impact sub by Michael Carrick. Do you feel from him a bit? That looks like might be his role at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. Because all players want to play. Everybody wants to start. There's not. I don't know. I've never come across a player that wants to come off the bench or start games on the bench. But
Michael, it's working for Manchester United at the minute, so why would you change that? And as a manager, you do have to think about, how do I impact this game if things aren't going well? Now, at the minute for Manchester United, he's the best change that they can make, if that makes sense. So if you think about taking somebody else out of that front four, maybe Cunha, but you wouldn't do that. So I think the key to this situation is the manager communicating the situation with his player? Now, I'd like to think Michael Carrick is, because he's a really good communicator, and he's just explaining, look, don't drop in your levels, or don't become. It's not a confidence thing. Just stay at it, and your time will come. You will get starts, but at the minute, we need to use you, all of us. We're all benefiting with you coming off the bench. So stay patient with me. Don't get upset about it. And I do think Michael Carrick will be communicating that. And if he does that, it'll be okay. But you do feel for him, because as football players, you work up all week to play that game. And when you sit on the bench, it's not fun. And especially when you keep coming off and scoring, he's going to be saying, I'm doing my job. But I can see where the manager's coming from, saying, well, if I start you, which is who do I take out? And then who's going to make an impact if we are 0-0 at Everton away and we need somebody to come on and score a goal? At the minute, unfortunately, you're the man to do that.
It's funny, though, because we spoke a little bit before we came on air, didn't we? And I was trying to think of somebody, but the only one for me is maybe Leandro Trossard, that actually did that a lot for Arsenal last season, and look what's happened this season. He's, in the starting 11, so maybe that's where he's, Michael Carrick's going to have that conversation if he gets the job permanently, of course. If we look about Seskon, can we kind of compare him to somebody that did something rather remarkable back in 1999? Well, the super sub, the original super sub.
The letters in his name are shared, that's for sure.
Yes, I like it.
Solskjaer and Seskon. Yeah. I think... Look, I think the thing is as well, United want to be playing in all the competitions, and the fact is this season they're not, and maybe Seskon would have got more minutes had United have gone deeper in the FA Cup, for example.
Yeah.
But if you look at actually Solskjaer's record at Manchester United compared to Seskon, small sample size, I will give you that. But have a look at Solskjaer here. He had a better record coming off the bench, almost a goal per 90 minutes coming off the bench. But if you look at also Benjamin Sesko as well, it's very similar, the numbers of him coming off the bench for goals per 90. So, look, Ashley knows, of course, players want to start, they want to play. But I just wonder, he's got loads of time. He's 22, he's got loads of time to establish himself in this Manchester United first team. Maybe right now, this is the best role for him. Yeah,
and also, just to add on to that, it might be a case of Michael Carrick's protecting him a little bit as well, because the minute he starts and doesn't perform well, we're all going to have something to say about it. So maybe the manager's just saying, do you know what, let me just protect this boy a little bit, and I'll put him on when I need to put him on, and now he gets his rewards. Instead of, if he starts the next game and he doesn't score, he doesn't play very well, the critics come straight out again. So, we're going to get the comparisons with Solskjaer, and I don't think anyone really would want that tag apart from Solskjaer, who seemed to thrive on it. But I don't see Sesko as being a long-term super sub at all. I think, like you say, next season maybe he'll be leading the line for Manchester United. I'm
interested to hear you say about the fact that perhaps he's being protected a little bit, because Gyökeres at times hasn't quite shone for Arsenal, and then kind of it hadn't quite worked out, but it seems to be really working out right now. Who would you prefer to come up against, Gyökeres or Sesko?
If I was playing at Gyökeres, just because he likes more of a physical battle, and I always like the physical battle. And as I was saying before, Sesko's really clever in the box. Really, he tends to lull the defender to sleep a little bit, and he'll pop up, and they're the difficult ones to play against. Me personally, I used to like it when I'd have a fight the whole game. It would keep you switched on. So, but within saying that, I think Gyökeres at the minute is probably playing better and showing more signs of being a good player than Sesko, if that makes sense. But for me personally, I liked one that was going to, good battle in a game.
All right, we'll let you two tussle then. We'll go to a break. Right, coming up next for you, we're going to be live to St James's Park ahead of Newcastle against Qarabag in the Champions League playoff this evening. And we're going to ask Ashley if Tottenham really, really could be relegated.
I think he's an outstanding talent.
Yeah. Exciting to have him in the Premier League. Right, excited to have this man on our show. His name is Matty. We've seen him many times before.
Here he is.
We should actually give him this as he comes on now, because Manchester United are absolutely flying, Matthew, aren't they? What has happened?
He weren't
apart from the manager.
He weren't kissing that badge 5 months ago, was he? He can kiss it now, though.
He's tearing that.
Oh, I'm always kissing the badge. Stop it. Hey, listen. I'm not here to say that I was wrong or right, but the manager change could have been a proper thing. Will, you had a point possibly. I could have been wrong on that thing, but man, life's been good lately. Only unbeaten team in 2026, unbeaten in the last 10 matches. It's a good life that I'm living right now, and top 4 is looking easy. I want more than that this season.
So wait, he said he wants more than that.
Well, I reckon they can get third.
I think they'll get third. I do think they'll get third. That's what Matty's talking about. He can't be talking about challenging for the title. He means top 3.
Whoa.
That's
You're talking about Aston Villa,
hey,
right?
never say never. Never say never. You know what's going to happen. Arsenal's going to bottle a couple points. We all know Arsenal's not going to win the league. Man City can do something. Aston Villa's right there around the corner. I'm just saying, never say never. Top 4 is confirmed, but, you know.
By the way, Matty, what's crazy is if you just won like 2 or 3 more games under Ruben Amorim, you would have been in the title race.
Yeah, definitely.
It's true. I mean, listen, I don't want to do the whole Ruben thing. I support whatever manager is there. I'm going to continue to do that. But my whole thing is there was a lot of things that he did that I think benefits the team today. Got rid of a lot of players like Garnacho, Rashford, Sancho. Brought in players that are going amazing now, Seskon and Mbeumo, Cunha. What men's? So some people, will say, and even interviews came out with Diego Dallo. I don't know if you saw that, saying that he kind of changed a lot of the culture of the foundation. People won't think that. Whatever, it is what it is. But I love what Carrick's doing now. And yeah, you look back at some of those matches that we let go. Everton 10 men when they only had 10 men. Some stupid games. Unfortunately, we could have been actually in a title race. Yeah. But it is what it is.
Matty, you know what though? You've made some good signings. And Mbeumo, Cunha, they get the headlines because they've been outstanding. This next player I'm going to ask you about, Seskon, I think he's making a big impact now because he was probably sitting on the bench when Carrick came on. But a winning goal on the other night against Everton is outstanding. Look at the desire he shows to get up with Mbeumo. And look at this, you're running that. What a finish. Brilliant. Go on, Matty, over to you, mate.
No, that pace is ridiculous. And look, this goal right here, that's not an easy goal. That's my favorite goal from him this season. Bruno Fernandes there, that's the reason he's the best midfielder in the Prem. Nice little dummy. He's just clinical. That's what we need in the box, a clinical finisher. He has the physicality, the beauty. He understands where to be in the box. It's been a while since I've seen a striker look at that finish. Yeah. And the greatest thing about him, I'll be honest with you, he could finish. He look at those, every single one. But the mentality of this player is what's really, really striving for him. In the interview after the game, he said, I don't care if I play 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the full game. When I come in, my goal is to score. And I feel like you look at other players that we had in the past, they did not have that mentality. Garnacho, after the Europa League final, was already talking about him going away. And you're 20 years old. This guy, at a young age, understands his role, understands what he has to do, trains. People say he's the first one in, last one out at training facility. Man, I love everything about Seskon. Does he start? I don't know. You don't fix what's not broken. So if he's coming in as a sub,
I'm gonna let Will come in a minute, mate. But do you not play him instead of someone probably like and it's difficult because he's been good, Ahmad. Because then you put Mbeumo on the right, Cunha on the left, and then you play him through the middle. Because you know what? I was a number 9, Matty. If I'm keep coming on, I don't want to be the super sub like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I want to start, but I understand where you're coming from, Matty.
It's a lot of assets. I mean, that's the one that gets hard for the manager. I get what you're saying. It's going to get to a point where he's going to be like, all right, I'm doing my job. I got to play. But yeah, you think Mbeumo, Cunha, Ahmad, that's the job for Carrick. I don't get paid millions to do it. It's going to be a difficult choice, but let's see what he does.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at the fixtures, Matty, between now and the end of the season. Only 10 to go, and obviously these are the only games that Manchester United have to focus on, which is going to be important, isn't it? When you think of what Liverpool are going to try and do in the Champions League, as for Chelsea as well, Aston Villa playing in Europe, Emery trying to win that competition. They're the ones that stand out, Matty, right? Because they're the teams around you in this Champions League race. Obviously, Villa, you think you can catch them, but Villa, Chelsea, and Liverpool all to play in the final 10. Now, this is in Manchester United's hands, which is, imagine hearing us say that just in sort of like at Christmas time. Matty, you genuinely believe you can finish third now when you look at that, don't you?
No, I think third. I'm serious when I say it. There was always jokes and stuff, but third I think is actually possible. 1 game per week, focus on this. We already took care of the smaller teams like Man City and Arsenal. We got our points over there. But when we look at the other teams, these other teams coming up, Chelsea, Liverpool, things like that, it's going to be difficult. But I think 1 game per week. Chelsea, Liverpool are in the Champions League. They got other competitions. Aston Villa, I think, someone said it before, the idea that they're going to be focused on their European competition. I think we won't have an excuse to finish top 4. We should finish top 4. And top 3, I think, is looking likely. I think Aston Villa is going to decline a little bit. And I'm not joking. Second place, something can happen. I might be pushing it, but I think it's in our hands. And I think we can really make it happen top 3.
Previously, Matty, I'd say they're tough games for Man United. I think the teams they're playing against will be fearing Man United. Yeah. It's crazy, like, because I do remember Will made some good points and Matty was like, no, Ruben Amorim was the problem. It wasn't the players. It's the formation he was playing and not playing players in the right position. So, Will, I'm going to do it live on TV. You actually know what you're talking about sometimes.
Sometimes. Well, more importantly, Michael Carrick knows what he's doing, right? Matty, more importantly, he knows what he's doing, right? So what I want to ask you is, are you in this camp now where, even from this point, no matter kind of what he does, he gets this job? Because he's going to carry on picking up the points. And let's just say, you do finish in those Champions League spots, whether it's third, whether it's fourth, or whether it's potentially fifth. He has to get the job, doesn't he?
It depends on who comes up. Like, there's one name for me that if this comes up in the summer, I'll say it shortly, but let me just give the praise to Carrick. You know, you had the whole thing. You haven't beat Arsenal at the Emirates since 2017. He did it. You haven't beat Spurs in the last 8 matches. He did it. And he's just every game that he's played as a manager for Man United, he has won. So it gets to a point where it's like, all right, this guy he knows what he's doing. There's one name. I wasn't so sure about Carrick. I said, no matter what happens in May, we need to let go of the emotional side, let go and find our manager. But he's growing on me, and it's getting to a point where it's undeniable.
You know who you want?
He's a legend of the club. He understands the culture.
I can guess one name, though.
Oh, no, don't Clinton thinks he knows.
Wait.
I think I'm going to have a guess as well.
I think he wants Enrique.
I think he wants Carlo Ancelotti.
Enrique is correct. I think Luis Enrique accomplished everything.
But based on no Premier League experience, Matty.
Yeah, but I think you got to think about it. He's a manager where everyone praises. Everyone knows he's class. And I think he's a manager that won basically everything he could at PSG. And I think someone said, I think Ange said it in an interview, the hardest job in the world is Man United. Whoever comes to Man United and wins either the Premier League or Champions League, they're going to get a statue. They're going to be talked about as one of the greatest managers of all time. So I think for a manager of his caliber, a challenge like that, I think he could do it, and I would love. That's the only name that I would say in a heartbeat, take him. But Carrick is growing on me. For me, it's between probably those two at the moment.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I don't mind them.
There's a lot of Ancelotti shouts as well after the World Cup with Brazil. Obviously, he's been there with Chelsea, League and Cup double, didn't he?
I get that. He might sign a new contract with Brazil.
I might be wrong, but I think Ancelotti might have signed already.
Yeah, he has with Brazil.
Matty, what contracts, right? Right, Matty, catch up soon. There we go. Matty in the United States, who's a happy Manchester United fan these days.
Refused to elaborate on his future at Crystal Palace, saying he doesn't know if he'll be at the club for the remainder of the campaign, should they be knocked out of the Europa Conference League tomorrow night. They're at home to Zrinjski, having drawn the first leg 1-1.
Do you still want and expect to see out the rest of the year? We know about the contract situation, or are there fears that potentially, if you did go out tomorrow, that it could be your last match as the Crystal Palace manager?
Again, I don't know what happens. I never know. But I know that we all give our best to win the game tomorrow, every single one. Who is involved, and that's what we can do. But on the other side, and again, I think it's just think about the Premier League, 3 points behind the 8th place. 8th place qualifies for Europe, how it looks like, and so I just think it makes no sense. They say putting all your money on one competition, but we are still, as said before, it's the second best amount of points ever. So it looks like we're playing an incredible Premier League season regarding the points. We have the European competitions, and we have had some big injury problems at the end of last year. Yeah, we had the AFCON, we had some big noise in any single transfer window. When I see the big picture, everything that happened, for me, it's just incredible where we are right now.
Well, Glasner raised eyebrows just a few weeks ago when he suggested that some of his players are more concerned about their futures away from the club rather than helping the team right now. Recently appointed club captain Dean Henderson has warned those players to be careful what they wish for.
Just going back to this idea that there's possibly players maybe have one eye on their next move at Crystal Palace. Do you see any evidence of that within the camp?
I don't know. They certainly shouldn't. They shouldn't, and if they have, they've got to be very careful, because if you don't put the performances in, ultimately you don't get the move you want. So they need to be very careful. So I'm not aware of any of that, but I would suggest they'd have to be careful if they were thinking like that. We've got a great manager and we're a good football club. And as we spoke about, this is the best season a Crystal Palace club or team has carried out over the history of the club. So I think it's time to shift the narrative and really smile, enjoy these moments, because as you can see, they don't come round often. Instead of putting it all negative spin on everything.
Talking of negative spins, it feels a very negative place at the moment because Oliver Glasner doesn't seem to be sort of putting anything to bed in press conferences. In fact, it seems very open-ended at the moment in terms of his future. How distracting is that for all the players?
Yeah, it's not nice to see, really. Even though the club is doing so well, they're in Europe, what normally doesn't happen at Palace. They have done in the past so well to get where they are now. They're accumulating so many points, but it's being overshadowed by a Glasner who is contract is finishing, and we all know that other clubs are looking at him. And I'm a little bit disappointed in his answers, because he could have just said, no, I'm going to be here until the end of the season, and there's no more questions, you know. So, and he should know better. It looks like he's being a little bit difficult, and he wants everybody to know that there are problems upstairs, working upstairs, and want everybody to know that things are not as smooth as they should be, even though I am doing really well with this team. With that many problems, we have had AFCON, we have had so many injuries, blah, 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 blah. I'm doing that well, but they're not happy upstairs, you know. That's the feeling that I get.
I think he's aware as well that there's a disconnect now between him and the supporters. So maybe that played into his thinking today, rather than wanting to give guarantees that I'm going to be here to the end of the season. The fans have made their thoughts known. There was a banner held up in Holmesdale End regarding his comments around asking supporters to be humble. Now, that sentence has caused a lot of angst and anxiety among the Palace support, given the history of the club and how close they came to going out of business before Steve Parish came in. And I think a lot of the issues have almost been of Oliver Glasner's own doing this season. So many things going on at Palace. He's right in terms of transfers, in terms of injuries. But the bottom line is, Palace could go on to have one of the most successful seasons in their history. That's still on the table for them. Yeah. I'm not sure a lot of Crystal Palace fans think that's going to happen, but it is still a possibility. That's why he's so bullish about the job that he's done and the job that he's doing at Crystal Palace. The problem that he's got is that he absolutely needs to turn this tie in Palace's favour against Mostar. Now, the result in the week, that was when it felt to me like things got really toxic between the fans and Oliver Glasner. And I mean, Villa went to Mostar and drew a couple of years ago in the Conference League. It's not that easy a place to go and get a result. But the performance and his comments after the game, suggesting that the fans should have enjoyed the trip to Mostar for this game, I think has caused a lot of anger amongst supporters. And there's a certain section of Palace fans that would like him to leave now. And a lot of Palace fans believe that he's torching his legacy.
Yeah, I think that he's not doing himself any favours long term, is he? In terms of people thinking, hang on, there's a prospective manager for us. Certainly he lit it up last season, didn't he, doing what he did. But now, is that sort of, like you mentioned there, it's ruining what he's done?
That's the feeling that I get. He's saying we need to be humble, but I think he needs to be humble as well. You know, I don't think that he is. He's done a magnificent job with Palace. Don't get me wrong. You know, beating Liverpool in the final, Charity Shield, FA Cup win, getting in Europe. He's done magnificent. You know, if you would have said that 2 years ago, this is going to happen with Palace, you would say, "Are you mad?" You know, so he's really exceeded what the expectations were. but then there is also class, you know, and I think he can show a little bit more class, even though he has these kind of problems with the board. And for the Palace fans to go against him, that says a lot, because they haven't seen a manager that has done that well for a long time. So for them to do what they are doing, you know, that says it all.
Just very, very briefly, has Mateta played his last game, do you think?
I don't hope so. You know, in the summer, in December, when he could go, every player in his situation.
Europa Conference League action tonight, a must-win game against the Bosnian side, Zrinjski Mostar. Now, Gary Cottrell is at Selhurst Park for us this evening. Hi there, Gary. It's fair to say, look, the relationship between Oliver Glasner and the Palace fans is a little bit strained at present. However, he did guide them, of course, to their first ever trophy in the FA Cup last season. And what an opportunity to win another, despite the turmoil at Selhurst Park, you have to say.
A night to make history is the hashtag that the club are using on their social media in the programme, urging the fans to get behind the team tonight, despite that downturn in relationships between some of the fans and Oliver Glasner. Obviously, banners out here at the weekend decrying the board, decrying Oliver Glasner. I think the fact that they got 3 points in that match against Wolves has helped the situation tonight quite a lot, because believe it or not, it was November before the weekend when they last had a home win at Selhurst Park in any competition. So no wonder the crowd were beginning to turn. And of course, they've been calling for the resignation of Oliver Glasner. That started when he announced he wasn't going to stay beyond the end of the season. Then he's refused on a couple of occasions to say whether he'll leave even before then, including yesterday when asked whether or not, if they lost tonight and went out of Europe, whether it would be his last game for Palace. He said, I don't know. Listen, I've just seen him arrive here. The fans were lined up as he came from his car, walked to the stadium, taking photographs, getting his autograph. They seemed really fine with him. He seemed really fine with them, looked quite relaxed. And one fan said to me, look, you know, if Crystal Palace were about to sack a manager but wanted to win the only trophy they're still in for, which of course is this Conference League trophy, what kind of manager would they go for? They'd go for the kind of manager who knows how to win cups, who knows how to win in Europe, and that is an Oliver Glasner type character. So I think as long as they stay in Europe, he will stay at the club. But if they go out tonight with a draw or a penalty shootout defeat or a defeat, then really it is up in the air whether or not Oliver Glasner remains here at Crystal Palace. I think it's a crucial night for the fans and for the manager, and of course for Crystal Palace, and that making history hope that they have.
It certainly is. Thank you very much indeed, Gary. Brad, it's a strange situation there at the moment. What do you make of it all?
Could be the 2-hour program on its own.
Yeah.
I understand all three sides, fan, board, and Glasner. Glasner will be upset that a lot of his top talented players went. The board will be saying if they're not going to re-sign the new contracts, we have to capitalize on the transfer fees. Mm-hmm. And the fans are saying, you guys kind of deal with what's going on. We're in the middle, and we're the ones that are paying our money to come watch. And the last few years have been really good to watch. Now what's happened? Mm-hmm. So I get where everyone's at. What I would say is Brentford lost a coach, and Brentford lost good players. And look where they are now, and Keith Andrews has a new deal. You know, I think there are different ways to do it. So was his agent in his ear with other possible clubs, and if they don't keep the players, we'll try to push you out. You know, there are certain ways that you can deal with things. I do agree that they need to keep him there while they're trying to win a trophy. And I think he's done a really good job at Crystal Palace. And I think one of the reasons why the fans are so upset is because I think deep down they know they have a really good head coach. Yeah. And they don't want him to go. And it looks now that, you know, hopefully he turns up, he keeps acting professional, and they get good results, and he and the fans can leave at the end of the season with a good applause and a handshake. But what a really odd turn of events from what has transpired over the last few years.
Yeah, it could be that he's in risk of kind of tarnishing what he's already done, couldn't it? Okay. Stay with us. Coming up next, Brad is going to come to the rescue of Premier League keepers and tell us how to deal with In Swinging Corners.